Clubhouse Jane Doe, identified as Merrybeth Hodgkinson. Merrybeth had 7 siblings, and she had grown up in Warminster, Pennsylvania. She was reportedly working as an exotic dancer in order to support the 2 children she was raising. It's not clear, however, exactly where the children were at the time of her death. It's possible that they were living with her in the motel she was staying in. She was in contact with her family up until September of 1992. The family made the statement that they reported her missing, but if in fact that did happen, it appears the police never officially filed the report, which is unfortunate as she would have been found close by just 3 years later, and the police had no one to match it up with as there was no report. Her family actively searched for her, but despite her family's efforts to find her, they found nothing. Fast forward to 1995. Unbeknownst to them, about 10 miles away, on another September day, 3 years after they first started looking for her, some local children were playing in a wooded area behind the Clubhouse Diner in Bensalem, Pennsylvania, and they discovered her body. She was found wrapped in plastic, without any clothing present. The remains were skeletal at the time and judged to be perhaps 2 to 3 years old, which fits with the time she went missing. Jewelry and some other articles of clothing had been found discarded near her body, but it's impossible to tell whether they belonged to her or not. After examination, they were able to tell the woman had brown hair and extensive dental work, but it was done in a way that looked like it came from a low-cost prison, or possibly a low-cost clinic. She'd given birth at least once. She had 2 crucifixes that she was wearing, depicting the Stations of the Cross. The cause of death was determined to be strangulation. The Bensalem police worked the case hard over the years, ruling out more than 50 women from around the area who had been reported missing. They had extracted DNA in May of 2004 in hopes it would lead to her name. However, this is always dependent on a family member submitting their DNA to CODIS. At the time, the only DNA in CODIS was taken from criminals unless family members donated theirs in hopes they would find somebody missing. Without a family submission or a police report, DNA was the only recourse, and it did save the day in the end. Bode Technology has been at the helm of numerous Doe identifications recently, and it was they who identified Merrybeth in December of 2021. In this case, it meant uploading to both GEDmatch and Family Tree DNA, which are both free options people can upload their DNA results. They are obtained on platforms like 23andMe. This is the second time I've heard of FTDNA referenced, so those who are looking for loved ones keep this in mind. Usually it was just GEDmatch that was being searched. You can also upload your DNA to FTDNA for free. This is something I've actually done myself. So if anyone's having trouble doing this, please leave a message below and I'll help you if I can. They sifted through the results that they got for months. They finally ended this portion of the search in November of 2021. In December of 2021, it led to Merrybeth's brother, who was contacted by a detective. He made the response that he does in fact have a sister who disappeared in 1992. The police realized this fit perfectly. Her brother explained that Merrybeth was a single mother of 2, who frequented several lower Bucks strip clubs as an exotic dancer. They searched for her for years, and eventually they had her declared legally dead in 2006. Sadly, her parents never saw the fruits of the searching for her, as they both passed away before Merrybeth was identified. The detective stated that he thinks there's a sense of relief, but probably still shock, because she's been gone so long, stating, "And then I call them up out of the blue and say, she's dead. And she's been dead for almost 30 years. That's a lot to swallow." The sad thing in these cases is that you finally get an answer to who the person was, but it still leaves who took their life most of the time. I know the DNA Doe project has been open that they don't run any DNA in regard to who the perpetrator was. Although in a case like this, I imagine it's very unlikely they even have that DNA. That's also why it's so important for anyone who knew the victim to come forward. Even information that may not seem directly related could actually help solve the case. Currently, the Bensalem police are looking for leads from family, friends, or acquaintances who have known Merrybeth. In order to get to the bottom of it, the case really needs someone who knew her to come forward. This can always be done anonymously through Crime Stoppers. Merrybeth Hodgkinson was missing for 29 years. She went unidentified for 26. She was found about 10 miles away from where she went missing. The Thousand Palms Jane Doe, identified as Patricia Cavallaro. Patricia Cavallaro was 57 years old in 1994, living with her husband and adult children in Bellflower, California. Despite 57 still being relatively young, for Patricia it wasn't. She had severe COPD and she couldn't breathe well at all, and with that came heart disease. Her husband would later say it was surprising that she simply left the house one day and didn't return. He did at least report her missing, so many of these stories start out without that happening. But that was the last anyone heard from Patricia. With her severe health issues, it made no sense. It would take 27 years, Othram Labs, and DNA to find her, and her son's DNA confirmed it. It would turn out that Patricia was found in Thousand Oaks, California, on October 24, 1994, in a shallow grave. She had been partially buried in sand, wrapped in a plastic sheet, and tied with brown cord, securing the sheet to her body. She had been rolled up fully clothed but with no shoes. They believed she had been there for about 3 months when she was first found, estimating her age to be 65 to 80. They knew she was 5 foot 4 inches tall and had full top and lower dentures. I found this one really odd. I thought it strange that no one matched the Thousand Palms Jane Doe, along with Patricia, as they were only 50 miles apart. And then it hit me. In the small print in all of the research material, I realized her husband didn't report her missing until 2001. Which is obviously extremely suspicious. She was found in 1994. It appears the adult children were living in the house also, so it's also strange that they didn't report her missing. It's frustrating also because the husband died in 2017, never facing any questions or possible consequences. According to the police, the inquiry into her death is still ongoing. Anyone with information is asked to call the number on your screen. Patricia Cavallaro went unidentified for 27 years. That's it for today. Thanks, everybody. Take care of yourselves and each other.